Hello everyone, and welcome to my channel, Ancient Epoch. My name is Eric Graziano, and I just finished watching the JRE debate between Flint Dibble and Graham Hancock. This has been a long-awaited debate, and there's been a lot of eyes on this, and I've been commenting it on my X channel as I've watched it, and I finally completed it. I've seen many topics I would like to elaborate on, but near the end of the episode, there was one key moment that I wanted to get a video out on immediately.
So I do want to be clear, how do we date the Sphinx? What kind of evidence archaeologically are we using? And so what that comes from is largely radiocarbon dates from the pyramids themselves. So pieces of wood that were in between the blocks of the pyramids have been radiocarbon dated and definitively tell us that the pyramids were built during the Old Kingdom.
And that is when Flint said that we have the dates based upon wood found between the blocks of the pyramids. So I want to elaborate on that a little bit more. It's not exactly that they found wood necessarily between the blocks. It's that mortar created by burning gypsum was found and is present on the internal blocks of many of the pyramids. I don't think a lot of people know that. Most people think that these blocks were fitted together with no mortar, but that's the casing stones or the internal chambers. But the interior blocks were sort of rough cut and put together, and they needed a way to fix them together, and with that they used mortar. And they used a process of burning gypsum, and when you burn gypsum, some of the charcoal from the wood that you burn ends up inside the mortar, and they dated this charcoal. In 1984, funded by the Ed Casey Foundation, the former psychic and medium, a group of individuals went out and collected samples to try and prove that the pyramids were much older than current Egyptology had given them credit for. When they collected the samples and brought them into laboratories, they came back with an average date of 374 years earlier than the accredited timelines according to mainstream archaeology. 374 years on average. Now, they didn't like this. This made them very unhappy. So what did they do? They said, well, we have to test again. Something must be wrong. So in 1995, they went out and they collected even more samples, and they brought them in, and they had them tested by laboratories. And they came back with dates that average about 2 centuries earlier than the considered dates known to Egyptology. 2 centuries, and that's being conservative. I'm going to show the data, and you can decide for yourselves. How old are the pyramids? Okay, so here's a graph of all of the dates plotted out. Now, how you read this is the crosshatch bars are the official standard Egyptologist dates for all of these sites. Then the black bars are the C14 date ranges. And the thicker the bar is, the more accurate or more solid the data is. And the thinner, the less reliable the data is. Starting off with Manari, you can see here that I've added a highlight and some red annotations. I've focused on the thickest bar for the carbon-14 dates and focused on those and eliminated the thinner ones. So I'm trying to be fair and balanced here. The closest date for the most reliable data is 130 years, and the farthest away is 170 years. But if I wanted to select the oldest date returned, we're talking about 350 years. For Khafre, same thing. I'm focusing on the thickest bar for the most reliable return dates, and the earliest and closest it can be would be 180 years earlier, and the furthest away would be 260 years. And again, I'm going to show if I wanted to take the latest date from the less reliable return data, we're talking 360 years earlier. Okay, lastly, we're going to go with Kufu. Same thing, I chose the most reliable return dates, and we're talking closest to the standard Egyptology timeline would be 80 years, and then the furthest away would be 170 years. And again, as I've done with the other two, if I take the furthest back date from the lesser reliable returns, we're talking 290 years earlier. Now, how they try to explain away this discrepancy is something they call the old wood problem. They put forth a hypothesis that they had centuries old wood lying around, or at least they reclaimed wood over and over and over again, to the point where they had all of this old wood that they could use to light the fires to create the mortar. It would seem to me you would need an awful lot of centuries old wood lying around to create the mortar for all the pyramids.